And good morning, Common Sense America. It's Friday, March the 10th. Thank goodness it's Friday. We made it, ladies and gentlemen. And that music was called Hot Coffee. And I was able to get it off the amazing YouTube studio. Thanks to YouTube, #YouTube. And thanks to all of those who are tuning in on this beautiful Friday morning here at Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill, and we have a fun episode for you this Friday. Yes, I'm wearing red, white, and blue. I am wearing my favorite Talbot's United States America flag sweater, and I have the flag flying high outside of our house and right behind me, all for the famous New York City famous headshot photographer, Barry Morgenstein. He is a dear friend to the show. He has been a dear friend for many years, and you get to hear him firsthand this morning as we talk about all things from famous people he has shot, those who are celebrities, presidential hopefuls. You have all of your different news entity headshots as well. This man is phenomenal. He's been featured on Fox News. He is an award-winning photographer. He is very well and really worked to advocate for our first responders, our law enforcement, and those who have served our nation through the Blue Network and the Blue Magazine. So thank you to Blue Magazine and Blue Network for what you are doing in the Northeast for our law enforcement and for around the nation. Thank you. And Barry covers a lot of what they do. He has been recognized by the Blue Magazine as the top photographer. Yes, he may live in New York City, but he comes to you. He goes to Nashville. He goes to Washington, D.C. He goes to Pennsylvania and New Jersey. But he is a Brooklyn boy, and I know how much he loves good coffee from New York and good bagels. I tell you what, that's the mecca of good coffee and bagels, Brooklyn, New York. So I'm excited to have him here with us this morning. He'll be joining us at about 10 after the hour. And I have some other fun news and fun interviews coming to you next week. I'm so excited. I told you we have a great month of new faces coming to the show. And I just posted on all of my accounts. If you have not seen it yet, tune in Tuesday, the 14th, I believe Tuesday the 14th, 9:15 a.m. We're bringing over Monsignor Jamie from Brooklyn. Yes, I have this fetish with Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn food. Italians, I love it all. It's absolutely phenomenal. We have Monsignor Jamie coming from the Emmaus Center. You may recognize that name. They have been a part of the show back during the fall and the holidays of last year on this show. He's going to be bringing to us his new cookbook. Yes, we're going to go cooking, common sense cooking here at Common Sense America. So if you have a chance to tune into the live episode on Tuesday at 9 a.m., please hop over and join us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and Rumble. We are there. Also, I was watching a couple of podcasts this morning and listening to them as I was getting ready. And you know what? It gave me the inspiration and the idea. I need to tell you how many episodes we have done since September. And I also need to tell you, we've been at this for 6 months now. And we're going strong. And you know why? Because we bring common sense to the American people. We bring truth to the American people. We're not the lamestream media. We are doing podcasting here, whether it's live, whether it's pre-recorded. We want to bring you stories that will impact you, your kitchen table, your family, and your nation's backyard. And so I'm so excited to be celebrating with you, my audience. And I'll tell you what, as much as I work so hard on this show, it's something I cared very deeply about. And I'm excited to see what God has in store for it next. But I'll tell you what, I've been invited to big events to cover the events with my podcast. And one of them is coming up mid-May, National Religious Broadcasters in Orlando, Florida. Another one is a seat at the table in Jersey. And so I'm so excited and I'm so honored. And I was also honored to be invited to go to CPAC with American Liberty News. So I just want to thank everyone who's out there, who's coming alongside of me, supporting this show. But also, I want to thank my husband because he's in the background saying, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do that. And he is just a phenomenal support to this show. And I'm so grateful for him. And speaking of my husband, the guest that we have on Monday is a very special guest to my husband and also to myself. We are doing a pre-record after the show with a gentleman by the name of Nelson Robbins. If you have not done so, if you've not heard of him, he is all over YouTube. He has a huge YouTube following and he has an amazing spiritual journey. So, Monday, we're going to be airing his episode. And it is all about him and his faith. He is a warrior. And a lot of the things that you will hear from him are impacting this culture now, impacting the churches, impacting the fact of what the churches aren't doing and what they should be doing. So I fasten your seatbelts Monday, 9 a.m. I'm going to air the episode. It may go 30, 40 minutes. It may be a longer podcast with regards to a longer segment, but there's so much that this precious soul has to share. And he is a fearless warrior in his faith. And that's what I love about him. He doesn't care what people think about him. He doesn't care about the haters. And he does have a lot. But what he does care about is those who come to know Jesus, most importantly. And so I'm excited to bring to you his testimony, to bring to you his story of faith. And know I talk a lot about God, country, and family here at Common Sense America because those are the top three things that are very important to me. But we are going to bring in some heavily faith-based segments. And if you choose to tune in, thank you. But if it is not in your space and you're not there yet, that's okay too. I'm going to let the Holy Spirit guide you. When it's your time, it'll happen. So just a lot of great things happening here at Common Sense America. Next week, we will also be doing some more commentary with some national figures, people you may have recognized from last year, but maybe not. They'll all be brand new to you. Also, I just wanted to thank all of those who tuned in this week while I was at Chapel Hill, while we interviewed Virginia Senate candidate Matt Strickland, while we had American Liberty News join us at CPAC last week. It's all kind of just mushed together for me. It's been a very long and amazing week, and I'm looking forward to some downtime and going offline this week. And I probably will not be on social media very much this weekend talking about my shows because I need some downtime and I need to fill my coffee cup with Jesus and more coffee and some rest. So that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Also, I wanted to just put this out there to you before we welcome over Barry to the show. He'll be hopping on in just like 2-3 minutes. His goal this year, and I saw it posted on his Twitter account, is to have the opportunity to do headshots for Kari Lake. So I say to each and every one of you who are tuning in, and even after the show, if you're watching this post-show, consider helping him support to get to this goal. He has done photography on Meryl Streep, Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Tonto, Benghazi. But Kari Lake is not on his list yet, and he's determined to do headshots for Kari Lake. So I say to each and every one of you, if you have a connection with Kari Lake, if you have a link, or if you just say, hey, I saw Common Sense with America with Eden Hill, and Barry Morgenstein, New York City's famous headshot photographer, was on. He has done all of these amazing individuals with their headshots, and he's dying to do Kari Lake. Will you schedule time to meet with him while he is in Washington, D.C.? And this is the most recent set of headshots. He has on here Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Shannon Bream, Larry O'Connor from WMAL Washington, D.C., Dana Perino, the former press secretary for George W. Bush, Judge Janine. I just love Judge Janine. Martha McCallum, and Matt Schlapp, head of CPAC. So he's coming to Alexandria, Virginia at the end of April. And yes, I did sign up to get my headshots done. I'm getting 2 sets and I'm so excited. I haven't told my husband yet, but I think he'll be okay with it. I'm not going to worry about it. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Welcome to
Good to see
Common
you.
Sense America. Good to see you too. Happy Friday. I wore my
I like your
patriotic.
sweater.
I wore it for you. I
Yeah,
wore
I
it
love
for
it.
you.
I love it. I
Yeah.
should have worn that flag instead of the Rolling Stones, but yeah, okay.
Hey, no, that's good. That's good. Hey,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming back to Common Sense America, doing this live streaming episode with my audience. I've been talking you up basically all week.
I
And
appreciate that.
yes. Well, I love what you do. And I love your spirit for America. And I'm just, and I loved meeting your wife, Shelly, at CPAC last week.
Yeah, she loved meeting you.
I think if you let us go off and do something, I think we'll probably get in trouble. But then we will come back looking innocent as lambs.
I see that for sure. You guys got to hit the bars together for sure.
Oh man, she is just phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of chuckled when I said to you guys at CPAC last week, I saw her before I saw you.
Everybody did.
Yes, she's stunning. She's absolutely stunning. But I see so many of your headshots of her on your pages, and I'm like, oh my word, it's the famous Barry's wife. And I hadn't met her yet, and I didn't even know her name, but I'm thinking, I know her. Oh my gosh.
So funny. That was happening. That was happening all weekend, believe it or not. It was happening.
Was it really?
It was funny. Yeah. I went there thinking I was going to be the known face, but it was all Shelly.
I love it. So where are you today? Are you in Jersey or are you in New York?
Yes, in New Jersey. Yeah, not shooting in the studio. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Taking the day off, going in the city tonight, but yeah. So.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just telling my audience. I saw one of your. I think it was on Twitter. It was on one of your social accounts. Your goal is to get headshots done for Carrie Lake.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I said that.
Yeah, sorry,
and I said that to my audience, and I said, okay, if you know Carrie Lake, if you have connections, let's make this happen for Barry. So when you posted that, did you get any comments or any leads?
I did actually. A few people are looking into this. Yeah, I just love Carrie Lake. She should have been the governor. I think she should be the vice presidential candidate. I think one day we always talk about the first woman president, which I'm never worried about first this or first that, but if we're going to, I just think the right person for the right job. But you know what?
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about a first woman president, she would be qualified. I think she'd be perfect. And I just love, she'd be beautiful to photograph, but I just love her personality. She reminds me of my wife a little, Shelly. Very strong, passionate, patriotic, and very outspoken. And so she's on my, I hate that term bucket list, but I guess she's on my bucket list.
No, I think that's great. Who else is on your bucket list that, I mean, you have been doing this for how many years now?
Oh, I've been shooting since 1986.
Okay. I was 10 years old.
I know. Whenever I say that, I feel pretty old.
No, but that's fabulous though. So you've been doing this for a long time. And I was telling the audience, let's see, who were some of the more famous celebrities that you have done in your time?
Yeah, well, I started off, as you know, I started off shooting rock and roll musicians for rock and roll magazines and record companies. So a lot of famous musicians, Paul McCartney, the Stones, U2, a long list of musicians. Then I went on to start shooting a lot of soap opera actors and actresses. And now my headshots is my thing. So I'm shooting a lot of TV people, a lot of news, well-known faces on the news. I do the headshots for Newsmax now. I've done a lot of Fox people. As you mentioned, President Trump and Netanyahu is one of my favorite photos of them together.
Yeah.
It's so many. I mean, people go to my website or my social media, they'll see a lot of faces.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I love about it. You have such a wide variety of in your portfolio.
Yeah.
It speaks to your talent and your gifts and how you're able to capture their souls, how you're able to capture their demoner and what.
I love that. That's my favorite compliment. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I noticed one of my favorite pieces to you is when we met through the Blue Network, and we can talk
Right.
about that a little bit later. But
Sure.
when we finally met in New York City at your studio, and I took one of my clients over
Mhm.
there, I loved seeing you in action. That was one of my favorite things, to seeing your talents come to life. And
Oh, thank
everybody had talked about you, and I'm like, okay, this is great, but I want to see this firsthand, and I got to experience it firsthand. And that was a treat for anybody who loves being in that environment, or is learning to be a photographer, or who wants to be in that space. What a great opportunity. My father was a photographer, not headshots, but growing up,
you.
it was one of his fun things. He did weddings and things like that.
Oh,
And I
great.
was always around it. And one of my favorite photographers was Jackie Kennedy before she became Jackie Kennedy. She
I
was
forgot she
she
was
was
a journalist, right?
yeah, she was a journalist and a photographer for it was a Washington paper at the time. It wasn't the Times or the Post, it was something else. And I always just was kind of drawn into that as a hobby.
Right.
And so over the years I've just continued to watch photography and watch, and I love this phone for that reason, but
Right.
it's not what you do. So that's where I want to go with that question for you. And that is, we have all of these amazing iPhones who have all these little filters on them, but it doesn't do what you do. And I want to make that very clear to the audience when they are doing family portraits or headshots or whatever. This gets you by, but it's not
Right.
what you do.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. But can you talk a little bit about your craft and how you got into it and what you see changing as our culture continues to change with more technology?
Well, I mean, I got into it through my love of music, actually. It's
Mm,
I actually played guitar when I was young, in my 20s, and I wasn't very good. I didn't have a future in it. Um,
mhm,
by the time I was in a band, and I had a girlfriend at the time. She was the lead singer, and I just started picking up a camera and started photographing her. Started photographing my friends who were musicians, and I realized since I love music, I had this eye, and I knew how to capture the
mhm,
musician, and
mhm,
that's how I kind of found what I love. I'm like, okay, I could be somehow connected to the music, but through my photography, since I didn't
mhm,
have the talent as a musician. And yeah, then I just started working for a big rock and roll photographer in New York as an assistant.
mhm.
He started sending me out on photo shoots, and I started building up a portfolio, making connections with magazines, record companies, and went on my own. And yeah, took off after that. But eventually, then I realized portraits was my thing. That was my
Mhm,
specialty. So now I do sell my music photos as frame photos and on t-shirts too,
mhm,
from my website. But yeah, but now I just found portraits and headshots is kind of
mhm.
my specialty.
You had mentioned U2 as one
Yep.
of the bands that you covered. What
Hmm.
was that like? Because I had the opportunity to work with Bono
Hmm.
when
Oh,
he was
great.
doing public policy
Right.
back during the Bush years, and I adored him. He was
Mhm.
just human as you can get. He didn't have any airs about him. What was
Right.
it like? What was it like capturing U2 during that time period at the height of their popularity?
Yeah, well, that was a pretty great experience because it was during it was the famous Amnesty International concert in New Jersey, and
Mm,
so that was a pretty big event. And also, I got to meet him briefly
mhm.
backstage and kind of talk briefly. Same thing about music,
Yeah.
mutual influences. We talked about both of our influences are John Lennon and Bob Dylan, so we were talking about that. We had that in common, so it was just cool talking to a guy like that and just a regular conversation about music.
Mhm,
But photographing him live, I got some great live shots of him. It
mhm.
was, it's a big arena and it was a big event, so they're kind of like legendary photos right now. So yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was great. It was great. I just love shooting musicians that I admire.
exactly, exactly. Do you ever take those, images and, donate them to auctions, for to raise money for, kids organizations or,
I have in the past, yeah, I definitely have. I've done that too more so recently with my Netanyahu and Trump photo. But yeah, because I do like to work with veteran organizations. So those are
yeah,
the groups that I would consider donating photos to, or I may donate my time too sometimes. As far as
yeah,
doing, I'll auction off a photo shoot with me,
mhm.
maybe a photo. Yeah, I've auctioned off my Stevie Ray Vaughan image.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, absolutely, absolutely do that.
That Netanyahu and Trump image that you post every once in a while on your social accounts, How did that come to be? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, that's a great story. I got a message on my Facebook. It was a Saturday night. Now this was 6 months before the first election when Trump
Mhm.
won, and so it was 6 months before the election. I got a message on Facebook from one of his attorneys. I guess he was following me. He said, "Hey, can you be at Trump Tower in New York tomorrow morning, Sunday morning at 7 o'clock? We need a photo of Mr. Trump and a special guest." And they didn't even know who it was at the time either. They just knew
Oh,
somebody important was coming.
uh-huh.
So I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." So I was there, and I get there, and it was maybe I was kind of in the room. I'll never forget. It was like, I guess they call it the war room when they where they were getting, it was the election room. I remember meeting General Petraeus was there. Not Petraeus. General Flynn was there.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, so like maybe 2 minutes before they lead me into the residence area,
Mhm.
they said, "Oh, it's going to be Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel." So these are two of my favorite people of all
Yeah.
time that are going to be in the same room. So I'm like trying to not freak out, just like, "Oh, good,
I
okay."
was gonna ask you, how did you feel?
Yeah, so I was like, I just had to get myself ready because they said basically we're going to bring you into the residence. They're going to start talking. You have 2 minutes to just start shooting and covering it. So I was firing away, and I luckily got this great image that I ended up converting to black and white, and I
Mm,
think it's a historic image because it was their first
mm.
official meeting before President Trump became president.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it's my favorite photo for sure.
Have you, did you ever give that gift, that picture of that gift? I call it a gift, to either one of them? Were you able to give it to them?
No, actually, I tried to contact some people who I knew had contacts with President Trump, and it just never happened.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Still, my idea was I would love to get a copy of President Trump and Netanyahu signing the image and auctioning it off for military charity. That would probably bring in some good money.
Yes, it
So
would.
yeah,
Yes.
so that's another idea. Maybe one day. It's still possible.
That picture needs to be in our history books,
Oh,
not
thank
the
you.
CRT and the transgender images.
Yeah,
So, you know?
don't get me started.
Oh, I know. I was thinking, let me get this let me get this pot
Yeah,
stirred
yeah.
a little
No, I
bit.
agree with you for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I'm tired of the watered down history this precious generation is learning.
No,
And,
it's good.
that
There's so many
image
things. Yeah,
that
just I
image
mean,
speaks volumes.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're being taught that America is not a good place, and it's so different from
Yeah.
when I grew up, and before. It's just people loved our country. We were taught to love the country, and not being told, have it drilled into our heads every day that we're horrible, racist country, this and that. Just it's all lies, and it's
It
frustrating. Kids are being indoctrinated, and it's getting scary now out there.
yeah,
And
it is.
stuff they are teaching in schools is, years ago people would have been arrested for that, and
Yes.
why now? And why are so many people tolerant? Parents, teachers. I just don't know what's
Yes.
going on. It's very
Yeah.
scary, and that's
It's
my pet
it's
peeve. It's just yeah.
Oh, no. No, we could talk about that all day long. I have a
Mm,
lot of people on this podcast, and we talk towards that. And,
mhm.
I think the more we talk about it and the more we are not afraid to speak up in the public square, that is a calling on your life, on my life, on your
Right,
wife's life.
absolutely,
And we need to be not afraid to stand up for that.
exactly.
And I think a lot of parents are just so blindsided because they're focused more on putting food on the table and making sure their kids are taken care of than
Right,
having to then fight this war, this culture war.
right.
And that's not fair. That's not fair to a lot of the parents. And I think
No, but people do need to speak up, like you said. People will
that
say to me, "Well, maybe you shouldn't be outspoken and post things on social media. It might hurt your business wise." But it's the country, and it's for kids. I mean, I'm looking for children. I
yes,
mean,
and it's
I'm
your
if you
constitutional
get
right.
offended by that, then I don't want you on my page.
Right.
It's it's
Well,
just
yeah, speaking of that, why don't we talk about the censorship that you experienced?
mhm.
You were put in how many times were you put in Facebook jail? I always kind of chuckled. I'm like, man, I thought I was outspoken and I haven't been put
Right.
in jail yet, but maybe I need to aspire to that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I've lost count. It's usually a few times a year. It's a few times. Yeah,
Oh,
I've
wow.
actually gone a good year without being. I've been good, I guess, or lucky. But no, I've been in Facebook jail a lot. I've been canceled. I have. acting groups in the DC area when I go there that won't recommend me because of my politics or because I'm patriotic or yeah. So now I get a lot of people who cancel me for sure. It's a real thing for sure.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
no, I know it is. I know it is. Well, I mean, having served in the Trump administration, I started to see my portfolio over 20 years of communications plus
Right.
being canceled
Yeah.
because I worked for him.
Right. Yeah. It's terrible. It's
It's a
terrible.
real thing. It's a
Right.
real thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything they accuse us of being fascist,
Mhm.
they're the fascists.
Exactly.
They censor, they cancel, they try to
Mhm.
ruin your lives. If they could, they throw some of us in jail or worse. If
Yeah,
they
that's
get away
exactly
with
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, okay, so let's talk about a couple other things. You came from Brooklyn, and I was opening up the my segment this morning. Everybody who follows the show knows I love Brooklyn bagels and I love New York coffee, and I get my order from Zabar's about
Nice.
once a month.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes, I did total it up, and I'm not telling anybody how much I spend on coffee and bagels. And I have gotten my Southern husband addicted to Zabar's bagels,
Oh,
and
that's great.
oh, I know, he loves it. I think he's becoming a Yankee. And,
That's kind of funny because my dad is from Brooklyn
uh-huh.
and my mom is from Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh,
So
really? So the North and
yeah,
South really did come
right.
together
So it's
there
kind of
too.
the same type of thing. Same, yeah, yeah, same thing. So yeah, it was a culture shock when she first got here. But yeah, and my dad, who unfortunately I lost a few years ago, but I don't know, I think he wrote a book. Actually, I'll have to get you a copy. It's called The Crazy Life of a Kid from Brooklyn. So
I
you
was
would
looking at it. Yes, I'd
yes,
love a copy.
and it's great stories about him growing up in Brooklyn, among other things, his
Mhm.
experience in business and world travels. But it's some funny stories. So you have to give me your address. I'll send you a copy since you love Brooklyn. You're gonna love this book.
Oh, I
So
love it. I
yeah,
love it.
but
We
yes,
we
when I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was born in Brooklyn. I actually grew up in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Mhm.
But I was born in Brooklyn. So I always like to say I'm half Southern, half New York. Mhm.
Well, did you ever get to well, this is a stupid question because I already know the answer to this, but growing up in Brooklyn, that culture of that time period, there's something so much about family and patriotism. It's like your baseball, your hot dogs, your apple
Oh,
pie,
exactly.
and I think
Stickball. My dad used to play stickball in the street, which
yeah.
till a few years ago, right before he passed away, we played stickball here in New Jersey too. So yeah, no, it was such a great time, and you look back at old film of Brooklyn and you see them at Ebbets Field or wherever wearing suit and ties and hats to a ball game.
Mhm.
I just love that time. It's just such a different time in America.
Yeah, yeah, there was a lot of patriotism at that point.
Well,
There was a
for
lot of
sure, sure.
patriotism.
And my dad, my dad and his mother were always very patriotic, and I learned
Mhm,
that too. Yeah,
mhm,
so yeah, it's fun when I was excuse me, when I was younger, I grew up in the 60s and 70s and I was a
mhm.
musician, so I was a little more well, a lot more on the liberal side
Right.
and my first vote was Democrat, but as you get and me and my dad would have little arguments and my grandma too. And
Mhm,
so it's funny as I grew older and changed completely, did a 180. I
mhm.
became almost even more conservative than my dad. So it was, but we enjoyed talking politics and agreeing on everything, and we had sharing emails. So yeah, I miss that. But it's yeah, so it's interesting
You,
how
you had mentioned that transformation for you.
right.
So and you had mentioned veterans a couple times early on, and I know we
Mhm.
talked about the Blue Network for a hot second. I wanna talk about that, and
Yeah,
I wanna I wanna focus in on something you did for George Beck, who, I tagged for the show today, and that had to do with Newsmax. That had to do with Greg Kelly and Greg
mhm,
Kelly's new book on law enforcement, and
right.
his father was the police commissioner for a long time, Ray Kelly, for the city of New York. Talk to me about how that happened for you. Was it because you became more conservative that you started noticing what was happening in our veteran community? How did you and
Yeah,
Blue come together?
well, that's exactly right. I basically when I became more conservative, I was which has happened for a lot of people. I think was 9/11. It was an
Yeah,
instant change right
yeah.
after 9/11. I kind of woke up, uh, and I just became more conservative, more patriotic. And yeah, I started admiring our veterans and law enforcement. And as time went on, I just started photographing a lot of them, and that became a passion for me. I love helping veterans, small way I can. I always say I'd like to be the Gary Sinise of headshot photographers. I don't have his fame, or I can't help the way he can. I wish I could, but so I do what little I can. Maybe volunteer a photo shoot if it raises money, or I always photograph Gold Star families for free. I make that very clear. I will not charge if they need. Maybe they do speaking engagements, so they may need photos. But if it's a Gold Star family, I will not charge. Veterans get discounts, law enforcement get discounts. So yeah, I got involved with. I became friends with the guys at Blue Magazine, and as far as the more recent with the Greg Kelly, I was speaking to Dan at the magazine, and and he said, Barry, who do you think we can get on the cover? Which is kind of nice that he comes to me for advice. He knows I know people. So I thought about it. I said, well, what about Greg Kelly? Because I know obviously his father was the police commissioner. It's obviously very pro law enforcement.
Yes.
And turns out one of my closest friends, Maureen Walsh, is the makeup artist for Newsmax and his personal makeup artist. So I reached out to her. She reached out to him and his wife, Greg's wife, and they were happy to do it. They set up the interview, and apparently it went very well. So I can't wait to see it in print coming out soon. So I just love hooking people up. As you might know, I hooked up the Benghazi guys with Blue Magazine too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the cover. If you look back, there's a cover, which is my photo, and I kind of hooked them up for interviews with them because I had done their first official photograph. Movie 13 Hours came out.
Yeah.
And, so Blue Magazine covered them. So yeah. So yeah, I just love Lord. I'm great friends with Dan and with George Beck. It's just like you can't meet nicer guys. You can't. Best people, law enforcement and veterans are always just the most laid back, humble, just regular people. I used to love hanging out with rock and roll stars. It's like or actors, and I still love. I admire actors and musicians, but these guys are the best. They're heroes, and they're just regular guys. And then they always say they're not heroes, but of course they are.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah. I absolutely love their magazine, and
it's great. It's the best law enforcement magazine in the country.
Yes.
That's great guys. So I love I do shoots for them. We did a calendar a few years 2 years back too. We featured some of the great, like the women of law enforcement. We did like a whole calendar. And these are all great women, brave, beautiful women. So I love working with them.
I noticed that I noticed on your website, if I look down on the recent post, it says that you were a photographer of the year named by Blue Magazine, which I absolutely love.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then also New York City headshot photographer honors veterans and caregivers. So thank you for doing that as well.
Oh my God. Yeah. I would love to do more of that. That was an amazing specific experience. I had volunteered for about a week. We went down to South Carolina. Wish I can remember the name of the location. Basically, it was a getaway for veterans. And they were like in a camp, they stayed in houses, and they had activities for them. And the week was going to end with a Gary Sinise, the Lieutenant Dan Band concert. So I was working for them and the Independence Fund, which is a great organization. They raise money for wheelchairs for veterans, and just do a lot of great work. So basically, I went down with my makeup team, and we stayed. They put us up, and what we did was we because the caregivers are their wives, girlfriends, or mothers, and they don't have time to do things for themselves. They're always taking care of the veteran. So basically, what we did was we gave them a day of like beauty. So the makeup artist would fix them up. I would do portraits of them with their spouses too. And we just did I think it was a day or 2 days of just portraits. And it was like the best experience. It was like they were so happy and so appreciative. And to this day, I'm in touch with a lot of them, and they were so grateful. And it was just, I just love doing stuff like that. And got to hang out with Gary Sinise at the end, take pictures of him, and at the concert, So
he is a precious soul. He is a precious
soul. He is. He's like the Bob Hope of our time, I guess. Basically.
Yes, he is.
So patriotic and just loves the veterans, what he does for them. Like I said, I would do a quarter of what he does. But I admire him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the Gary Sinise Foundation, when it first launched, I was still at Fox Business, and we were one of the first shows to help promote the launch of the Gary Sinise Foundation. And I remember, yeah, and I remember running out to 6th Avenue, Avenue of the Americas, where Fox is located, and I was looking for him. And I was like, okay, how do I approach this? I know you're a famous person, but I need to get you on the show so we can get you set up. He was out there talking to a bunch of first responders.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Not surprised.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, the show must wait because this is more important at this point.
Right.
And I remember bringing him back in and we got him set up. And I got to have some personal time with him and just share with him, everything that I had done working with our veteran community. And then we got him on the show. And then afterwards, I started working more heavily in the veteran community after I left Fox. And it was at the time when he was still out in California with the Gary Sinise Foundation. And I flew out there for another work event, and I went out there and they sat down and I said, okay, I have a combat veteran who's running for Congress. I have a veteran organization. And I said, I have a veteran author. I said, who do you want to work with first? And they welcomed, their executive director welcomed me and said, okay, let's do this, this, and this. And that's the amazing piece to the Gary Sinise Foundation. They will come. Yeah, they will come alongside and serve the veteran and their family to the, to the utmost of their ability. And then since then, they have actually moved to the Tennessee, Nashville area, where they can be a lot closer to a lot of the bases here in the East Coast, like Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, who are here in North Carolina, and et cetera, et cetera. So I could go on for days, and I completely agree with you and just applaud the work that they're doing. And I just, there's something to that. There really is something to that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 I'm sorry. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that just becomes such an important part of my career now, is just kind of working with the veterans and the law enforcement. So, and I think I've become known as the go-to guy for, they feel comfortable with me because they know how I feel, that I'm supportive and patriotic, so rare in New York, maybe.
Yeah, well, talking of New York, let's talk about that for a second. What happened? You are a business owner, and you were in New York during COVID. What did you do to fight back that authoritarian regime? What did you do during that period?
Yeah, well, basically, as you know, they shut us down. They shut businesses down, and we were shut down for months. And after a few months, I just said enough is enough. Look, I basically post on social media. I say, hey guys, I'm not afraid. I'm going back to work. So if you're not afraid, you want to come in for headshots, I'm going to be in my studio. And people reacted. And actually, I could say the first person that came and supported me to get new photos was Rob O'Donnell, who's a great, he's a former New York City detective.
Oh.
Who's now retired. He has his own podcast too, which he interviewed me at CPAC. So he came in. So leave it to a hero like that to come in, feel safe, and he gave me a boost. It was a confidence that I was like, okay, well, people are going to come, and so I just continued working and refused to, say I'm not going to wear a mask because like these things don't work.
Yep.
So the only place I had to was on an airplane when you absolutely had to, if you had to travel, but under protest. So I was just defiant. It's just I knew the whole thing. I knew the shutdowns were a bunch of bull, and it was just everything that they had us do, which is that still infuriates me of what we had to go through, and it's all for nothing, absolutely all for nothing. Not to say COVID isn't real, but a lot of things are real. The flu is real, but those things didn't work. Masks did nothing to stop the spread. Shutdowns did nothing. Keeping kids out of school did nothing to stop the spread. Didn't protect the kids. Kids weren't even at risk.
Exactly.
It's just infuriating what the government can do. So you have to fight back. And it's sad to see people still walk in New York, walking down the street with masks on. Was it 3 years later?
I was going to ask you. Are they really doing that? Are they running the subways and doing that?
Oh, they're still walking, just walk by themselves. Yeah, and a lot of it is young people too, which I don't know where they're getting their news. Well, I might know, but
let me list all the places.
Exactly. Excuse me. Yeah. So but it's like, it's sad though. It's almost a depressing feeling because it shows our society and young people, or not all young, and not all, but a lot of weak people in our society who go along, who went along and still go along.
Yeah.
I remember those people who, like, back in the heat of everything, when they see you not wearing a mask and they would, oh, put your mask on or whatever. I just wanted to, I made me very angry. It's like, it's like,
let me just rip that off of you.
yeah, I know, yeah, just, and with these rules in the supermarkets, like the one-way aisles and nonsense like that, just looking back, it's like, wow, how did we fall for that nonsense?
Yeah. I know.
So
It's such a control mechanism piece. It
it
really
is.
is.
It
See how
is.
far we could, we would fall to that trap.
Right. And too many
Yeah.
people went along. That's what infuriates me. Some people say, well, what do you care if, if you don't wear a mask, why do you care if other people? Well, as I said, because when they do it, it just shows that, the government's going to keep taking advantage of these people, and they're going to keep pushing these ridiculous, fascist laws on us, or rules, or whatever it says, and just taking away our freedom. Is like, if you go along with this, and it's just shocking how many people did and still do.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still scared people out there, and it's mind-boggling.
No, it is. And a lot of them seem to be coming down to these southern states, and some of them are more conservative, which is great. We, in our neighborhood here in North Carolina, we have Pennsylvania, we have Ukraine, we have some Long Island, and they're all very conservative in mindset. But what we are seeing as a whole from the state of North Carolina, it's becoming more and more purple, because still a lot of them are coming down from the northern states for freedom, but yet they're bringing
their values,
values with them that are more
right.
progressive mentality. Yeah.
Right, which is scary. That's like where Shelley comes from, Arizona. It's what's happening there too. It used to be a red state. Now it's very purple.
Yeah.
Kerry Lake didn't get in, which is also mind-boggling.
I know it is. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just scary. I hope it doesn't happen to Florida and Texas. So
you wonder about, with the presidential, and I know we've talked briefly about this at CPAC, but you have the Trump group, you have the DeSantis group, and then you have the Haley group kind of over here. Haley's at a very distant third, and you still have a lot who haven't announced yet. I think DeSantis hasn't announced, but when you look at the polls and you talk to different groups, everyone is saying it's between DeSantis and Trump. And, I kind of wonder, you hear it from the conservative polls, you hear it from the lamestream media polls. What are your thoughts, though, being in New Jersey, being, working in New York? What are still your thoughts for the upcoming presidential? Because Trump obviously announced, Haley obviously announced, we're maybe waiting on Pence, DeSantis, Tim Scott, maybe a couple, Vivek, I can't remember his last name. We have him in the race as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess my thought is, I'm not like, I don't want to bash DeSantis. I think he's fantastic. I love DeSantis. I think one day he's going to I think he will be a great president. I just think Donald Trump has to finish what he started. I think he needs the 4 more years. Then after that, I think it's DeSantis' turn. I think he's a great leader, and I kind of wish they went, I love Donald Trump, but I wish he wouldn't go into DeSantis the way he does. I don't think that's necessary, because he's he's just a great leader. You can't deny he's a great governor, and he will be a great president one day. And I really look forward to when he will. But I just think I like him to finish what he's doing in Florida, because he's doing an amazing job. And President Trump needs to finish what he did. Then it'll be DeSantis' turn. If we can get Trump, then DeSantis for another 8 years, and then we might be able to save what we're losing in the country, because we are losing it, and losing it fast. A lot of crazy stuff going on. So a lot of very weird, crazy stuff that's like, watch the news every night, my head explodes. I just can't believe things that are happening now that 10, 20 years ago was like, people would have unheard of, or some of these people would have been in jail for what they're doing,
Yeah.
So, my take,
No, I appreciate that. And that's well said. I haven't heard it that I haven't heard it described that well. I've asked other people, and
No.
I've talked to the younger generations who are in the different conservative college groups. I've talked to, I was at CPAC. I asked quite a few people too, just to kind of get their take. And what I see is a fragmented Republican conservative group. And I
Hmm.
agree with you where Trump needs to stop picking on DeSantis. I think
Absolutely.
DeSantis,
Absolutely.
and I've heard DeSantis's commentary. He doesn't really address what Trump says. He
No.
really focuses on, I am the leader of Florida, and
Right.
I made, this is what I was voted in to do. And I really appreciate that in him as well. But it would be great to see Trump back in, finishing up what he started,
Right.
and
Because
basically
he has the
saving.
record of accomplishments that he has to show.
Exactly.
He has,
Exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he needs to continue, for
Hmm.
sure.
Agreed. Okay. One final question and then I'll let you go. But man, this has been such a great time with you, Barry. I'm just so
Absolutely.
grateful for you. Grateful for
I
you.
appreciate it. I'm
Thank
grateful
you.
for you. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. So, okay, we have April 22nd and 23rd. You are
Right.
doing headshots in DC, but I have a
Yeah.
question for you, and I'm kind
Right.
of throwing this out there. And I know we had mentioned it, and I wasn't sure. I think you and Shelly were checking. Are you guys going to the April 27th Somerset, Jersey, a seat at the table, Choose Freedom event? It's a mini CPAC.
Yeah, we went. Well, we went last year.
Did you?
We
Okay.
we did. Yeah, we know we're friends with Marla, who runs it.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
yeah, so it's a great event, and we'd like to. We have to make sure we're going to be in town. We always go back and
Okay.
forth to Arizona to see.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
we're not sure, but we'll try. But if not,
Okay.
yeah, but it's a great event. We've been there, so for sure.
Yeah, I talked with Elizabeth. I'm planning on going to it, attending it, and probably covering some of it as well with my
Oh, that'd be
podcast.
great. Oh, good.
Um, but I just wanted to make sure that connection was made for you. But talk to us
Yes.
about you are going to be in DC, Virginia, Maryland area, April 22nd and 23rd
23rd
for
for headshot.
headshots.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been going down to the DMV area because I was recommended at one time to come down because a lot of people down there would need
Mhm.
headshots. It's a great place for me because there's a lot of news people, there's a lot of politicians, and there's a lot of actors too. So it's kind of my field, and I've been going for I think 8 or 9 years. And
Mhm.
it started off once a year, grew to twice a year. Now it's 3 times a year because it became so popular and successful. So what we do is it's a weekend of headshots. I have a whole team, my assistants makeup team down there, the best makeup team in the DC area. We have a studio. We just kind of do headshots all weekend long. We have a great staff, and it's kind of we have fun. It's like we have music playing, we have food, we have interviews,
Mhm.
behind the scenes stuff going on, and people get great headshots. So yeah, if anybody's in that area, they can always contact me, and we usually sell out. So hopefully,
Okay.
yeah,
And I have your Twitter account going across the screen so they can reach you there. I
yeah,
will
or
also
Facebook.
the headshot card that
Okay.
you gave me,
Oh, good.
and also your website where people can find you and go sign up. And I
Great.
haven't told Craig yet that I signed up for the 2 sets, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
That's great. Yeah, looking forward to that. You'll get some great shots.
I can't wait because I need it for the podcast. I
Yeah,
need it
definitely.
for
Yeah,
I need it for my media business, and
yeah.
people are talking to me about running again. So who knows,
Oh,
Barry?
great.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
that
You
would be
know.
great. Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
I'm actually I do have my American flag that I bring with me too. So if you need that for a backdrop too, we can do that. But
oh,
we'll
I
talk
would
about
love
that.
that. Oh, I'd love
Yeah,
that, Barry. That'd be so
yeah,
much fun. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to see you in April. It'll be here before
yeah.
we know it.
Absolutely.
And
Looking forward to it. Excited.
so, Barry Morgenstein, New York City's top headshot photographer and award-winning photographer with world-renowned appeal. And I can't say enough great things about Barry, my friend. Thank you so much for your service to our veteran community. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for really capturing the true spirit of us and your photography and your talent. So thank you for your service.
I really appreciate that. That's very nice. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great weekend. Tell Shelly I said hi, and I'll see
I
you
will.
soon.
We'll see you in April.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Barry.
Bye.
Bye. For all those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America, and we just have a little less than 10 minutes left here at the show. And I'm actually going to leave you on a couple notes before we kick off this restful weekend here in Cedar Point, North Carolina. So if you are interested in getting your headshots done with Barry Morgenstein, please go and check out his website And you can follow him at Barry M Photo on Twitter. But also, you can go to barrymorgenstein.com. It's spelled Morgenstein. And I'm going to also put up here for you images of his headshots that he has done through the years. And like I mentioned to you earlier, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Shannon Bream, Larry O'Connor, Dana Perino, Judge Janine, Matt Schlapp, Martha McCallum, some great, amazing Americans. He has been doing their headshots. So we are grateful for his service and also the work that he's done for our veteran community and Blue Network. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. Also, you heard us talk about Greg Kelly. If you are ever looking for a great show during the day and you just want a little pick-me-up, go over to WABC 77 New York. You can live stream it on your phone. 1 o'clock, 12:15 is Curtis Sliwa. And then at 1 o'clock is Greg Kelly. He's also the Newsmax host for Newsmax, I believe in the late evening. But if you have a chance, hop over to WABC 77, one of my favorite radio shows, live stream them throughout the day. Listen to Greg Kelly, listen to Curtis Sliwa, also some other fun greats on there. So until then, have a great weekend, get some rest, and be ready because we have great new episodes coming to you next week, 9 a.m. weekdays here, Common Sense America, YouTube. Subscribe if you have not had a chance. Share it with your friends. Share some of the commentary with your friends. Also, you can find shorter reels on my Instagram, Eden Gordon Media, or hop over to LinkedIn, hop over to Facebook. We're all over the place sharing truth, God, country, and family. So until then, have a great weekend, and we will see you bright and early Monday morning.